Welcome back to Therapeutic Window. I'm Pat Sharp, medicinal chemist, and today we're going to be talking about a new drug that looks super promising for a specific type of hair loss called alopecia areata. So let's dive in and see how this is changing the lives of millions of people around the world. So alopecia areata, it's a specific form of hair loss that affects about 147 million people globally. It's caused by the body's own immune system attacking the hair follicles, which causes hair to fall out in a really kind of patchy way. It often occurs on the scalp, but it also can affect the eyebrows, eyelashes, and all sorts of hair all over the body. So we're not just talking about the typical male receding hairline. This is a condition that affects men and women of all ages. So think more Jada Pinkett Smith slash Will Smith slapping Chris Rock type hair loss. Last year, the FDA approved a drug called Ritlecitinib, specifically for treating this type of hair loss, alopecia areata. It's sold under the brand name Litfulo by Pfizer, and don't ask me how they came up with that name. It's a pretty badass molecule. It's a super potent and selective irreversible JAK3 inhibitor that has no effect on JAK1 or JAK2 or TYK2, which are really closely related proteins. And this is no easy chemistry feat. And this is super important because inhibiting JAK3 suppresses cytokines like IL-2, 4, 7, 9, 15, and 21, which are immune signaling molecules that cause autoimmune conditions like alopecia, but also they're involved in other autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, for example. Because it spares JAK1, it doesn't suppress potentially protective cytokines like IL-10 and IL-27, and because it doesn't inhibit JAK2, it doesn't have side effects like thrombocytopenia, neutropenia, and anemia that affect the blood. And so the upshot is that Ritlecitinib is one of the safest JAK inhibitors around. It's pretty appropriate for treating a non-life-threatening autoimmune condition like alopecia, and this in contrast with a lot of other kinase inhibitors that are typically only reserved for treating really serious autoimmune conditions or life-threatening conditions like cancer. Now, the results from the clinical trials were pretty spectacular, to be honest. For example, the Allegro trial, which was a placebo-controlled double-blind phase 2b/3 study in 718 patients 12 years of age or older who had alopecia areata. And the participants included in this study had at least 50% scalp hair loss. The participants were randomized to receive once daily Ritlecitinib at 30 milligrams or 50 milligrams with potentially 1 month of an initial treatment period of a loading dose of 200 milligrams, or they just received a placebo. And in the study, what they found was high proportions of patients treated with the 30 and 50 milligram Ritlecitinib with or without the loading dose. It didn't really seem to make much difference. Had 80% or more scalp hair coverage at the end of the study. And they started off, remember, with less than 50%. And this was after 6 months versus placebo. So this wasn't just a slight improvement. We're talking about noticeable, life-changing results. Imagine going from hiding under a hat, wig, or a scarf to confidently being able to show off a full head of hair. So for those suffering from alopecia, Litfulo really offers a new lease on life. So now let's talk safety. So some adverse events like headaches, common cold, and respiratory infections were experienced in about 82% of people, and serious adverse events like herpes, pulmonary embolisms, and even breast cancer were experienced by 2% of patients. But these events were seen in both the groups taking Ritlecitinib as well as the placebo group, and so just reflect the typical rates of these adverse events that are seen in the general population. For example, breast cancer typically occurs in about 0.1% of the population over 12 years old in a 1-year period, and that's similar to that seen in this study. But no cardiac events, no deaths, or opportunistic infections were reported over the course of about a year's worth of taking the drug. This is probably one of the safest JAK inhibitors I've ever seen, and it's taken years of development in the pharmaceutical industry to develop this type of safety profile for this class of drug. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more irreversible kinase inhibitors being rolled out for conditions, for non-life-threatening conditions like autoimmune conditions and others in the future. But as always, there are important considerations. Although the approval process does include rigorous trials, long-term effects and safety still need to be monitored. So it's crucial that people have realistic expectations and stay informed. Now, Litfulo does have a price tag of about $48,000 per year of treatment, but it's important to remember that this list price isn't the price that the typical patient would pay at the end of the day. Discounts from the manufacturer, Pfizer, and from insurers mean that the cost is significantly lower and can actually be zero in some cases, depending on the insurance. And the drug actually comes off patent in 2028, which means it will become generic, and that should probably bring the price down by about 80%. So what's the bottom line? Well, Litfulo represents a significant advancement in the treatment of not only just alopecia, but autoimmune conditions more generally. It's now offering hope to millions of people around the world who have struggled with this condition, and it underscores the real role of innovation in science in having a meaningful impact on people's lives. So with that, remember, stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, this is Pat Sharp signing off.